All right, Nick. Amongst the very, very large QB carousel we've seen over the last year, past offseason, quarterbacks have been changing teams, record-setting deals have been signed. Someone near and dear to my team, Lamar Jackson, has not been signed. Do you have any indications or updates on what's going on with that story?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, the Ravens and Lamar Jackson are in contentious contract negotiations about a long-term deal for the star quarterback. Ravens owner Steve Biscotti talked to Jeff Zierbrek over at The Athletic, and this is what Biscotti said. He says, talking about Lamar Jackson, unless he has a change of heart and calls GM Eric DaCosta and says, I'm ready, contract negotiations won't likely continue. But it's like, this is Biscotti talking, but it's like Eric can't keep calling him and say, hey, Lamar, you really need to get in here and get this thing done. Adam Wells over at Bleacher Report said that the Ravens are currently waiting on Lamar Jackson to, quote, step up and negotiate contract. Eric DaCosta told reporters it had been an unusual negotiation with Jackson because he doesn't have a traditional agent. At this point, I would say we're working at Lamar's pace, DaCosta added. He's comfortable where we are right now. Per Ken Belson of the New York Times, Jackson relies on advisors to help him with negotiations. His mother, Felicia Jones, is among the advisors on his team. All right, Mize, here's my take on this. Right now, the Ravens are really, really frustrated because Jackson has played him he's been playing very hard to get. He's been playing it back, keeping it very slow balling it a little bit here. And I think the Ravens feel like they need to push some of the blame of these contract negotiations back on the Jackson. Because normally how these deals go is that the agent of a player kind of acts as the business go-between the player's personal side, his ego, and all that kind of stuff, and the team's business. So the agent kind of allows the team to go, hey, we love the player, but it's just business. We deal the personal stuff with the player. The agent's there for the business. Well, when the player's agent is essentially his mother, it's really hard to keep those things separate. They can't go to Felicia Jones, Lamar Jackson's mother, and give him a lowball offer and play a tough business with her. They can't because it's Lamar Jackson's mother. That's not going to work out for the contract negotiations at all. So at this point, they resorted to just trying to shift public perception and blame Jackson for not stepping up to meet the Ravens and the contract negotiations. And I don't think that's a winning strategy. I just think they feel like that's the only thing they can do right now. What's your take on this? What's your thoughts?
So it's very difficult as a fan of the team. I love Lamar, and I think he's a great quarterback and one that I would like to have on my team for the future. He's been progressing very nicely, and every year he's been getting better and better. Okay, but here's the facts. If you're a business person, which Lamar is a business person, he has his own business, he has got advisors, he has people, they're not dumb. They know what they're doing. If you look at the body of his career, last year is the lowest point of his young NFL career. It was the first season he had not made the playoffs. It was the first season that he had been injured. It was an entire team full of injured players. The team was not up to par as far as having the right starters out there on defense and on offense. He had no running backs. It was a disaster, so to speak. So if I am Lamar, I don't want that to be the last thing that you remember about me when I walk in the door and try to discuss with you how much you're going to pay me. I'm willing to gamble that no matter how next year goes, it's at least going to be better than last year. So that gives me somewhat of a moral leg up. Because I don't want to walk in there now and think, Deshaun Watson got $230 million guaranteed. And they come in at me like, oh, yeah, that's nice, but we'll give you like 175. He did get hurt last year. We did not make the playoffs. He doesn't want that. I don't want that. I want him to have the best deal. I want him to want to play for Baltimore, which I think he does. So that's from my biased fan perspective. That's where I'm coming from with all this.
Yeah, and Jackson has come out and said he loves Baltimore, wants to play for Baltimore. He's saying all the right things and doing everything he needs to. You brought up the point of how the Ravens are trying to treat it, the business mindset. From the Ravens perspective, getting Jackson to agree to a deal now, that's like buying low. That's like when things are cheap. The market's tanking. We want to get quality assets for cheap. Like you said, Jackson was coming off an injury. The team had a rash of injuries and missed the playoffs because of it. Jackson very smartly says, look, why would I, sign a long-term deal after the worst year of my career? Even though he progressed a lot as a passer with the injuries and missing the playoffs, by some accounts, it was his worst year, at least in terms of signing a long-term deal. Doesn't make any sense from Jackson's perspective. You don't need to be an agent to know that. And here's the other side of it. I think of two players that were in similar boats to Jackson. I look at Kirk Cousins with Washington and Dak Prescott with Dallas. Cousins actually played out his option and multiple franchise tags and got massive guaranteed money from the Minnesota Vikings and is still getting that money from the Vikings to this day. Very, very smart business move. Dak Prescott, similar approach, played out his last year of his rookie deal, then it went through the franchise tag process. And even though he got hurt during his franchise tag year, he still was able to sign a massive deal with Dallas. So Jackson's very smart here. He knows the longer he waits, he's still going to sign a big deal. It's going to be massive. It's going to be guaranteed. It's either with Baltimore or it's going to be with somewhere else. And right now, the Ravens absolutely know they need Jackson. Their entire offense is built around Jackson. You may like Garrett Huntley. He's a quality backup. Garrett Huntley, is that his?
Tyler Huntley.
Tyler Huntley. Tyler Huntley, I think he's a quality backup. You're not winning playoff games with Tyler Huntley. Tyler Huntley's not an MVP quarterback. Lamar Jackson is. He's proven, he's done it, and he's getting better. The team is built around him. Frankly, the city is built around him right now. Lamar Jackson is the focus of Baltimore sports right now. Probably everything in Baltimore right now. So the Ravens know that. Lamar Jackson knows that, and that's why it's really smart for him to try and slow ball this a little bit and wait for his big deal probably next offseason.